All right, everyone, now it's time for basically the all-encompassing news of the day. It's like, again, genocide looming in South Africa, possible civil war. Yawn, it's a slow news day. Oh, Facebook is turning dystopian to the level of literally adopting Chinese government style of trustworthiness ratings. Nobody gives a fuck. Oh my god, Paul Manafort guilty on 8 counts. It's the end of the world for Trump, and by the way, Cohen is flipped. Haha, he admitted Trump broke the law. First, let me talk about Cohen. Because I'm seeing some people claiming, well, he broke election law, haha, we've got him this time, he's going to get subpoenaed, he's going to get indicted, he'll get impeached. No. There's one simple reason why. Trump paid hush money to Stormy Daniels. Yeah, absolutely, Cohen's saying that he did. That's something we already knew that basically happened. Trump commanded him to do so. This happened before the election. That is, he, I believe, hadn't even filed the paperwork yet. Having an affair is not a crime. Well, I think maybe adultery could be a civil case, but it's not a crime. You don't go to prison for fucking a porn star, basically. And this was in 2006 when that supposedly happened. It was a long time ago. Because that itself is not a crime, having an NDA created and paying somebody money, that's not against the law. It's just a non-disclosure agreement. So Cohen's saying, yeah, Trump commanded me to do this first. Can you prove that? Number 2, if he did, so fucking what? Does anybody care that Trump has had affairs? Did anybody wonder that he had affairs? It's like early on, it's like, oh, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, as far as Stormy Daniels goes. But it's like he's always been a ladies' man. He's always been a horn dog. It's not any fucking secret. Who fucking cares? Does it endanger anything regarding our government that before the election an NDA was signed and then violated by Stormy Daniels? No. It doesn't matter to anybody. No, none of us are involved with that at all. It's like if you have a problem with presidents who are philanderers, and this wasn't even when he was in office, half the presidents, you should despise them, including most Democrats of the last fucking century. FDR was a philanderer. He fucked his secretary constantly. He fucked many people constantly. JFK, need I say more? Nixon was a sexual degenerate. He was a Republican. LBJ used to whip out his cock and show people that it was large and in charge in order to intimidate them. He did this on multiple occasions. Bill Clinton. It's like Ronald Reagan was the only one not getting any on the side. And, we don't necessarily know about that either. It's like George W., yeah, but who would want to sleep with George W. Obama? We don't know about any affairs involving him because people are too fixated on worrying about his national origin, which was itself dumb as a box of rocks. Then we got to talk about Manafort. Of course, as all of you inevitably know, Paul Manafort was found guilty on 8 of the 18 or 19 counts, so about half of them. He's looking at spending potentially the rest of his life in prison and or paying several million in fines. I would say I'd just give him the fine. Here's my reading. I pointed this out. I believe Paul Manafort is guilty. I think he's guilty as sin. But looking at what was presented as far as we know by the prosecution, if I had been on the jury, I would have found him not guilty. The closest they came to proving anything beyond a reasonable doubt, in my opinion, was a couple instances of wire fraud, specifically related to his rental property there that he shouldn't have been able to get a wired money for anyway. He shouldn't have received that money. As far as tax evasion, I would have found him not guilty on all his charges, and I'll tell you why. Knowing that somebody is probably almost certainly kind of guilty is different from, in a legal framework, finding it beyond a reasonable doubt. I think also this makes it very strange that he didn't bother to offer up a full defense. Why would his defense team have done that? Obviously, the jury thought about half the charges were credible, and it gets a mistrial on the rest. Now, do you think that Mueller is going to recommend the prosecutors will go forward and try him on the rest again? I would like to think not, because it's like, dude, you already got him on 8 charges. He's probably going to prison he's 68. He's an older dude. He either goes to prison for the rest of his life or he has to sell like all of his property to pay the fine off. Either way, it's like fucking who cares? But I will say this doesn't sink Trump. This is Paul Manafort. People have to realize we were sold the Mueller probe on the basis that Russia colluded with people on the Trump campaign. This has nothing to do with collusion. It's tax evasion, a fairly common white-collar crime. Unfortunately common. Of course, people with sanity don't attempt to evade on their taxes because it might come back and bite them. If they become well-known and potentially a political target. I know I've got to go to the accountant and be like, I'm not claiming anything I'm not due claiming, trust me. Here, sit there for 3 hours and compile all of these shots of different e-receipts for everything that qualifies and not a penny more. That's basically what I had to do in the last 2 years. Now, thankfully, with Trump doubling, I believe, the standard exemption, I'm just going to take that and it'll take 10 minutes. So it'll be a lot easier. But here's the thing. Manafort is guilty on these charges. Where's Russia? Where's Vladimir Putin in all of this? Oh, he laundered money for a group that was pro-Russian. Well, that's not Russia. It was in Ukraine. It was long before the election, and he was working with the Podesta group at the time. What the fuck does that have to do with Trump? And as far as the Cohen thing, it's like, who cares? He takes a plea deal, he's like, yeah, I'm guilty. He comes out and makes a statement, well, yeah, Trump told me to do this, but by all accounts, he hasn't said anything further. And it's like Cohen's lawyer's like, well, yeah, he used information of interest to Mueller. People have been saying this for several years. People were talking of impeachment. The big story of the day is, rumbles of impeachment. Markets shudder on the concept of Pence becoming president, which, trust me, would be a nightmare for the Democrats. It would be a night. They wouldn't have their punching bag anymore. What the fuck are they going to talk about? Pence is a boring dude. What are you going to talk about? The fact that he treats his wife like a mommy figure or something, and it's kind of weird? Who fucking cares? I think they should scrap the line of secession in the normal sense, just put Mattis in there if he were impeached. But he's not going to get impeached. Trump's just fine. He's going to serve out, at the very least, he serves out his term, possibly a second term. This doesn't, by the way, change the metric of how likely it is that he gets reelected. What are the Democrats going to do? Ramble for the next fucking well, obviously they will, successfully. Ramble for the next 2 years on the fact that, well, Cohen went to prison. Manafort went to prison or got fined or whatever the judge cares to do. That's not going to work very well. I don't think that's not a political platform. That's rambling about what by then will be very old news. The fact that Trump is surrounded by people who have broken the law, no. Here's what it is. Most of D.C. and Hollywood, Wall Street, all these people break the law, especially white-collar crime and sexual things. They do it all the time. NDAs are filed daily by these people. They're constantly harassing one another. They stab each other in the back. They commit fraud. They commit embezzlement schemes. They do terrible things all the time. Trump's inner circle, though, is subject to such massive purview that they actually got caught in it. This is why Mueller, I think, was less scared about doing such a deep probe. He knew, hey, Trump has surrounded himself with the best and brightest of D.C. and Hollywood and Wall Street. Of course half of these people have broken the law. It's just a matter of getting evidence. By the way, I have every reason to believe they threatened to throw the book at Cohen to get him to corroborate info that they already have but can't use in any proceedings because they obtained it illegally during the raid. Literally, they've already got tapes and papers and all that. They already know all of that stuff. By the way, they would have indicted Trump by now if there were any real wrongdoing there. They have to get Cohen to squawk, though, in order to use that because they know they can't. The rest of it wouldn't be admitted in a court of law because of the manner in which they carried their raid out. So they're hoping to just pressure him and say, look, we can get you and probably put you in there for the rest of your life, or you can talk and, well, make sure you get leniency. Spend 6 months in there, we'll do time serve, something like that. Your sentence gets commuted. Either that or they're pressuring Trump to try to pardon these people. That's a possibility. If he does, it'd be funny. What are you going to do? Impeach him? You can't impeach him. These are federal charges. It's within his purview to pardon him. And it deals with things that didn't happen when he was associated with him. Trump should come out and ramble about the Podestas some more as a political strategy. Yeah. No, I don't think this brings Trump down. Look, every time the left has said, well, the Billy Bush tape will take him down. He's admitting to being a rapist, which he didn't, but that's how they report on it. He's talking about grabbing women by the vaginas. Or he gets 2 scoops of ice cream. His approval has fallen below 40. He's got a low ceiling. Every single time that they claim that he's finally hit the end, he's finally going to be out, he ends up defeating them and rising up again. This just has happened over and over. It's like clockwork. These people need their clickbait bullshit, and so they're going to talk about it for days. And trust me, eventually people forget all about Cohen and Manafort. They'll forget that they even exist because it's not going to cause an indictment. Yeah, when Rand Paul says maybe impeachment would be an okay idea, then Trump has to worry. Until then, I don't think you really need to even worry about the story. Manafort got jailed. Yes. For things unrelated to the Russia probe's actual original presented scope. We were told it's about, hey, we need to look into this. The Russians may have done shit. Meanwhile, they're saying the Russians are trying to hack into the midterms. Dude, the Russians have been trying to hack everything for decades and decades and decades. That is not abnormal. Only your fixation on it is abnormal. That is, they simply didn't talk about it before. It wasn't newsworthy because they rightfully believed Chinese hackers were more dangerous, which they are. Now they're trying to convince you Russia's this great big boogeyman. It's not. They've always been doing this. We do this to them too. It has nothing to do with Trump. Until Trump got into office and the DNC lied and said Russians were the ones that hacked their servers, there was no compelling reason for them to fixate on it. The Cohen thing means nothing. Stormy Daniels, we already knew that she got paid off. We already knew that Trump probably commanded him to do so. Who cares? It is not illegal to sleep with Stormy Daniels. Probably should be, but it's not. You just get some STIs or something. Be a real big problem. Not be a walking factory for little microbes or whatever. No, it's not illegal. And paying somebody as part of an NDA isn't illegal. Saying, hey, I'm settling with you. I'm giving you money. Sign this. Don't talk about it. That's not rigging an election. It's not attempting to unduly and illegally influence an election. They're like, oh, it's a federal crime. It's attempting to influence the election. No, it's not. It happened before the election paperwork, as far as I know, was filed. It's quite some time ago. The affair happened in 2006. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't involve anybody. It doesn't involve the scope of government in the fiscal sense. It's like, oh, the market shuddered today on talk of impeachment. No, the market shuddered today because the media is fixated on masturbating itself to the idea of impeachment. It's really what it's about. That's about all. Peace out.